Dirty Money is a crime thriller that follows two shady cops burdened by financial issues who smuggle a piece of evidence from a crime scene and learn that $500,000 of untraceable laundered money will soon be transported out of the country. But instead of doing their jobs as police, they decide to commit a crime of their own and attempt to steal the money for themselves. It seems like a simple enough task on paper, but of course, things don't quite go to plan when an unexpected shootout occurs, turning what should have been a simple theft into a full-fledged crime scene with multiple people dead. Now, these two officers are tasked with investigating their own crime, giving them the opportunity to cover their tracks while suspicions arise about their involvement by the gang they stole the money from, as well as some observant members of the police force. Which sounds like quite a fine premise for a thriller. However, I was a bit underwhelmed with just how straightforward and rather bland the writing, direction, and characterization is, as the movie comes equipped with a very straight-to-the-point and formulaic approach, a lot of familiar tropes from the genre, and a pretty uninteresting first act with a lack of intricacy to the planning of this theft, as most things will just kind of simply fall into place without much thought or care, and as a result, there isn't a whole lot that creates any excitement or tension leading up to the heist. But at the very least, because of its simplicity, things move along at a nice and brisk pace, and I thought it did fairly well in laying a solid framework for the general direction, even if it feels pretty undercooked and very surface level with its ideas. Maybe you'll find it more compelling, but I just wasn't all that engaged until around the half-hour mark when they attempt to steal the money. And sure, you might question why there's only 4 people handling hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I actually quite enjoyed this sequence, and it did get me on board with the dramatic wait that will soon follow. Again, it is formulaic, and I feel like I've seen similar ideas handled better in other movies, as I do think the simplicity here holds things back a bit. But the acting from Jung Woo and Kim Dae-Myung was good enough to make the drama mostly effective. And there's a handful of gang scenes sprinkled in that introduces a bit more of the necessary tension and stands out as some of the more gripping scenes in the movie. I also started to feel like, after the theft, there was more of an emphasis on the cinematography being visually effective in capturing the emotion and drama through the compositions, which really grabbed my attention more than anything else, and is probably one of the strongest qualities of the movie. So there is actually a slight improvement following my initial criticisms of the first act, but it still feels like it's missing something to really make everything feel more impactful. It wasn't until the final act that I felt like the movie finally found its footing and started to implement a bit more of the ruthlessness and grit that's typically a staple of some of the best Korean thrillers. Unfortunately, it does come a bit too late in the movie, but it was a welcome addition for sure, and it makes for a pretty good ending to an otherwise competently made, well acted, nicely shot, but somewhat forgettable and generic thriller. So if you've watched a lot of Korean thrillers or crime thrillers in general, then I don't think there's much here to latch onto initially or anything that will really surprise you along the way. But I guess it's a decent enough movie to pass some time if you're running out of things to watch and want to keep up with the latest South Korean releases.